So recently, I've been replaying through some of my favorite games. I started on like the Half-Life series and was gonna play like all the way through, like Half-Life, Half-Life 2, Black Mesa, and then like Portal and Portal 2, because like Portal 2 is one of my favorites, but I really feel like the journey is part of it. Um, and I like recently, like, I was playing, like, the original Doom and, and just trying to, like, understand why, they have considerably worse graphics than, like, a lot of modern games, but there's something so, a for lack of better word, immersive. It doesn't as unconvincing as they are. There's something that really makes you feel like you're there, just a little bit in, like they're just tight and claustrophobic. And I mean, you can see like restoration like on the walls, like especially like I'm like got like a big 4K monitor. It's it. I'm very lucky to have it, right? But I mean, like having, these tiny pixel graphics almost stretched out on it is a bit ridiculous. But I'm just saying, like, the games really show their age, but it doesn't seem to matter. And I kept wondering, like, why that is. Like, why, like I can still get a jump scare from from these, like, like nearly cardboard cutout monsters like in Doom, like per se, for example, because like it feels like no matter where I turn, they're still looking at me. Like there's just something about it. And and then I was kind of like thinking about fairly recently there was like a game genre that kind of cropped up, liminal spaces, right? Like and some examples of it is like there's like a liminal spaces game about like pools, and there's like a bunch of like horror games that use it as kind of like a setting. um Stanley Parable is like a really good example of it. But if you're not familiar with like a liminal space, basically, think of an empty mall. Think of like walking through the hallway in school during classes when like there's not as many like people around. Just that like that long unending hallway. Just rooms that were built to house a big and vibrant uh like group of people. Uh the experience like experiencing them empty, right? Um, and some people find it horrifying. That's why they're used in horror games. Like I've personally my share of nightmares where I'm, the further I walk down the hallway, the longer it gets, right? Or I've had like quite a few about like you know being alone, being chased through an abandoned amusement park or something. But I mean, that's my own fault because I really enjoy watching urban explorer sorts of videos where people are going through like amusement park ruins usually because I those tended to be fairly big and really forgotten because even disassembling rides is so expensive that you can't sink any more money into it. So they're like popular for urban explorers, but so are malls, because that was a failed social experiment. Um, I'm getting a little off track, but the man responsible for malls was trying to do the opposite of what he ended up doing by creating them. It's a really interesting thing. But yeah, a topic for another day. Um, but um, but yeah, I enjoy watching the exploring empty malls or abandoned like schools or big industrial buildings. There's something like eerie, obviously, with these spaces that were built for so many people to occupy at once. But, um, you know, typically, uh, what makes it liminal is when you're there by yourself or in the case of like an explorer video, just the camera person is there so that the building itself is the focus. The ones I tend to watch, the ones where it's like they turn around the camera and tell you how they feel about it. I don't really care for those because you know, I, but I just like some people find it terrifying and some people find it comforting, and I wonder um why that is, and I've it's kind of a pet theory at this point, but I wonder if people that find them comforting are people that just prefer worse graphics because games were designed that way due to technical limitations, um, not as a desired choice. I used to almost dismiss them as monster hallways. I would call them games. I originally didn't even enjoy first person shooters. It was a genre that I got into once I got over not really liking that perspective because, um, coming from more of a tabletop and RPG, um, like preference, uh, like switching to shooters was an interesting choice for me because I find I find being a camera a lot more awkward than watching a character walk through the world, but they're just different experiences, and I think that first person was the correct choice uh, for a lot of these games, and I just didn't understand it yet. Um, and now I can appreciate having that tight perspective where I'm not worried about how my character would navigate through the world. I'm just experiencing the world from a fixed point. Uh, so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen like the videos where people do the perpetually moving hands. Like there's a one where somebody's like making breakfast and he like does his like swapping through guns where it's like butter knife and then it's like pistol and stuff. Like it's no, they're very funny, but there's something like there's something I can just really appreciate now that I don't know that I could at the time, and it's exploring those monster hallways, how you really do get like a feeling of dread. There's an atmosphere that I don't know that I could originally appreciate, and it's always been there. And as games get like bigger and more complicated, there's all this stuff, right? That should increase immersion. It should enhance the experience, but I wonder if it in some way detracts from it because I I I feel I feel more like tension and dread walking through this just little I mean like it's obvious to my brain at any moment that it's fake. Like I can see the the textures on the wall. Like it's not very convincing at all, but like somehow the feeling is there, and I wonder if that's kind of what draws me to retro inspired like modern games. Like there was one that came out kind of recently, oh, Dark and Darker, and I almost laughed. Well, no, I did. I absolutely just laughed when I first saw it. I was like, "What is this?" Um, it looks like um It looks like Elder Scrolls Arena, it looks like, I was trying to think of other games from the time period. Whenever, like, there was, like, the rough transition from, like, D&D rule set to a 3D representation, and, as difficult as that was to do at the time, it was just a little rat maze that you go through with a character. Like, you know, if you're lucky, they'll render the sword, and and I was, eh, and I thought, oh, this is so ridiculous. Who would want this? A lot of people want this. There's something like really just genuinely enjoyable about it, and that one's even worse because it's like you have a chance of like well, basically you go in for a run, and anything you gather, you keep should you escape, and if you die, you lose everything, and that's the worst kind of gameplay for me because I need my gradual progression. I need to feel like that I get to keep everything that I earned, and some people are more rewarded by like the fear of losing at any moment because that makes accomplishing and achieving like more satisfying for them, and I can understand like the difference between people's motivations with that. But yeah, you're not just fighting the monsters. It's also there's also a PvP element where you can sneak up on somebody that's carefully gone through uh, and take all of their stuff at the end, and that's got to just feel so great for you and so terrible for them, or vice versa. But there's absolutely um, a market for that. That game really appeals to people, so there's like completely a place for it. And I I wondered, while they went with like kind of like retro gameplay, I wondered like why they went with like retro graphic fidelity, and now I can just really appreciate it. Having played through older games again recently, um, there's there's just something that that just I feel like has been lost with more detail. And I don't know. Everything always comes back to Warcraft, but I really liked Vanilla Warcraft. There was something so charming and I, I don't know, cozy, believable. I don't know the right word for it. There's just in my mind, like I can mentally like navigate through the world of Warcraft as if it was a real place. Like when people would ask for directions, you could give them directions like, you were going somewhere. And I used to think, oh, fast travel ruined that, or teleporting to instances and not needing to like travel to the door or to, but, but no, there was something inherent about the game environments, and I'm starting to piece together what that was, and it's kind of interesting. Um, okay, um, just thinking about it today. Take care.